Hello, my name is Malika Bazdab. Welcome to Prem Express. In the absence of any unforeseen circumstances, it's almost certain that Ghana's next Chief Justice is Justice Sophia Akuffo. President Nana Akufo-Addo has nominated her. She's now pending approval by Parliament as required by the Constitution. Who is Ghana's next Chief Justice? Do we know her? Where was she born? What did she do? How did she rise to the level of Supreme Court at the age of 45? Now she's the second female Chief Justice and the 13th Chief Justice of Ghana. We have tracked somebody who knows her to Mount Crest University where he teaches. When we come back from the break, I will introduce him and he will answer all our questions. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and today we are talking again Chief Justice to be Sophia Akuffo. My guest is Justice Kojo Owusu, retired. He retired as a High Court judge.
On the regional tribunal.
Okay. So
he's
Adimo. So Justice Owusu teaches at Mount Crest University. He's our guest today. In fact, we are doing this show from Mount Crest University. Justice Owusu, welcome to PM Express.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Yes.
You are looking good for a 70-year-old man.
Yes.
You've been teaching since you left service?
Yeah, 5.5 years now.
Okay, so you retired 5 years ago?
Yes, 5 years ago.
How is life like?
Very exciting. Okay. I'm enjoying the academic life.
Okay.
Marking scripts, teaching, getting up every morning and coming here. It makes me more fit and makes my brain very sharp.
And I must say that when we came here, Justice Owusu was in class. He
yes.
was teaching when we came here. We had to wait for him to finish his class. Right. But just we want to talk about Justice Sophia Akuffo,
okay.
Who is almost certainly our next Chief Justice,
yes.
And who will head the judiciary. Sure, yeah, okay. Let's start with judiciary. When we talk about judiciary, what do we mean?
Yeah. The judiciary, according to the Constitution of Ghana and many other countries, is one arm of what? Government.
Okay, that's the third arm of
the third arm of government, is that right? And the judiciary is composed of the superior courts and the lower courts. The superior courts are the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Courts and regional tribunals. Then the lower courts is made up of circuit courts and now district courts. Okay. That is what we mean by the judiciary.
What about magistrates?
The magistrates, they sit as district court magistrates. So district court, they are the lowest or the bottom of the court hierarchy. Okay. So we have lower courts, higher courts, and what? Lower courts. That makes up the judiciary.
So how does this structure function in real terms? If I have a case, how does one determine which court hears a case? How is that determination made?
Yes. The Courts Act, is that right? For certain actions, determines where you can go. For example, it's about contract. And the contract price, or you are suing for more than 100,000 cedis. Less than 100,000 cedis, then you go to the district court. That's 10,000 cedis now.
Okay.
If it's 45,000 cedis, then you have to file your rate at the circuit court. Okay. If it's more than that, then you have to file your rate at the High Court.
That's cases that arise out of disagreement by business people.
Yes, a contract or tort. Is that right? You have to file them depending upon the amount you are claiming, determine where you have to file your case. But matters which are of constitutional issue, where the Supreme Court is maybe being called upon to determine the constitutionality or otherwise of a certain issue, then that one you have to go to the Supreme Court.
For example, Abu Ramadan argued that persons using National Health Insurance cards as proof of citizenship to register to vote, it was not proper. So he went to the Supreme Court
for declaration.
Okay.
For the Supreme Court to pronounce or to declare whether that is correct or not. Is that right?
So if I were to bring a case at, say, the district level.
Yes.
And the case was determined and I didn't like the outcome.
Yes.
What options are available to me?
Yeah, well, you go on appeal. Is that right? If it's a civil case, you know civil case,
yes.
you go on appeal to the High Court. Circuit Court appeals goes to the High Court for determination again. Okay. Then if you were in the Circuit Court, District Court appeals, civil District Court appeals, they go to the High Court. Okay. Then civil Circuit Court appeals, they go to the Court of Appeal. So if you are fighting over somebody, over land, maybe for declaration of title, and the matter was filed at the Circuit Court, and you won, you lost, you can go and appeal, not to the High Court, even though the High Court is a superior court. You have to go to the Court of Appeal for the 3 judges to determine the appeal.
So let's talk about the judiciary proper.
Yes.
And you've given us the structure. What constitutes the judiciary?
Yeah, that's it.
And the Chief Justice is head of the judiciary.
Yes.
So apart from the court, is there any notable thing about judiciary that we must note?
Yes. The Judicial Council is a very important wing of the judiciary, in the sense that most decisions which are taken by the Judicial Council. Another thing is that the Chief Justice works with Judicial Secretary, who she appoints, but who is above the level of a High Court judge, or on the level of a High Court judge.
And the current Judicial Secretary is Alex Puke Champion.
Yes.
Okay.
He's a High Court judge since I led the service. I don't know whether he has been promoted to Court of Appeal. So even though the Chief Justice is the head of the judiciary, in charge of administration and other things, is that right? There are certain decisions which are taken in collaboration with the Judicial Council. And I want to give you the composition of the Judicial Council because it's very, very important for our listeners that certain decisions which are taken either administratively or legally and the rest, just like the Council of State, they have to approve of it or they must know about it.
But those are not judicial decisions, are they?
They are judicial decisions. Judicial decisions are normally taken by judges in the form of judgments.
Yes.
But if you want to appoint a judge, for example, is that right? That judge must be approved by the Judicial Council. It's not the Chief Justice who approves the appointment of the High Court judge. The Judicial Council must know about it. The Ghana Bar Association must know about it. There are certain appointments, even the Judicial Service, which the bar must know about it.
Okay, let's talk about the composition of the Judicial Council.
Thank you very much.
I would want us to talk about also whether the decisions of the Judicial Council are binding on the appointing authority, i.e. the president, because we know that the Ghana Bar Association I think last year, went to court over this. But what's the composition of the Judicial Council?
Thank you. Let me give it to you. That's why I cannot say it over. Now, the Judicial Council is covered by Article 15 of the Constitution. Is that right? The composition is that the Chief Justice is the chairman of the Judicial Council.
Okay.
The Attorney General is a member of the Judicial Council. Then all the Superior Court judges, they have their rep there. So all High Court judges have their rep sitting on the Judicial Council. Regional Tribunal rep sitting on the Judicial Council. And the lower courts also have their rep sitting on the Judicial Council.
So what does the Judicial Council
But let me give you the composition first. Then there are 2 representatives of the Ghana Bar Association, which also sit on the Judicial Council. Then a representative of the lower courts, I've said it, right? Then the head of the legal department of the Ghana Armed Forces is also there. Then the head of the legal department of the police service is also there. Then the director of the Ghana Law Reports is also there.
Okay.
Then a representative of JUSAC, the lower, the ordinary staff, the staff, like registrars, call union, they have their rep on the Judicial Council. Then also the National House of Chiefs also have their rep.
Okay.
Then 4 persons appointed by the government, the executive, are also on the Judicial Council.
Then it's a
very broad,
comprehensive,
yes.
Okay.
Represent so many these things on the Judicial Council. Now the Judicial Council works through committees. They have a committee on finance and budgeting. They have a committee on discipline. They have a committee, appointments, committee. Almost all these people, some of them are represented in these committees. Before the determination of the matter by the committee comes back to the council, and sometimes submitted to a vote, or sometimes adopted before it becomes binding on everybody.
So the disciplinary committee,
for example,
for instance, what does it do?
It handles people who have misconducted themselves, is that right? Both within the administration and both also within the court.
So judges,
lawyers, judges, registrars, court clerks, and all those things. If they get themselves, they misconduct themselves, the matter will first be put at the disciplinary committee of the Judicial Council, of the Judicial Council, and they will determine what course of action to take.
We have been told variously that Justice Sophia Akuffo is a disciplinarian by all standards. How will that factor in the work of a committee such as that?
It means that she will not be biased. I know some people who embezzle funds as registrars, and they were all found wanting. They were put before the police. Police prosecuted them, and they were jailed, for example.
In the courts?
Yes, they were jailed by the courts. The courts jailing court staff. You can imagine it, that there will be no bias anywhere.
Okay, let's talk about Justice Sophia Akuffo.
Okay.
What do we know about her?
I had the opportunity to know her first when there was a report during Justice Radio's tenure that there were some...
And this must have been somewhere 2001 afterwards.
Afterwards, yes.
Yes.
That there were children who were being kept in adult cells in Accra here. And that sometimes some of the cells contain women. Women don't have cells there, but the police sometimes dump the 2 of them together in the cells. So I received a letter that I, Justice Akuffo, and the late Justice Azoy, we should go around all the prisons, all the cells, police cells in Accra, as much as possible, to find out whether it's true. We went around, I wrote the report, and what we saw in the cells was very, very terrible. Is that right?
What did you see?
We saw, like at Adabaka police station, we saw people packed in a small cell with toilet inside, and the place was even so small that about 20 people were in a place which is about 8 by 10 or whatever it is. And I think when we went to Mateko, there's a police barracks there. What we saw there was very terrible. Even the police themselves, where they were staying, the deterioration of the infrastructure, the environment, and everything there was so abhorrent. So when we came, I wrote the report and gave it to her. And I gave another copy to Justice Azoy. When I learned about them was that they didn't, for them to see whether I should add something or reduce it. The 2 of them said that the report was correct.
But what was her reaction when she saw those?
At the police station.
That appalled you so much?
I would say it. She said that she believes that the IGP was not doing enough. Is that right? And that the cells, apparently nobody goes to inspect them.
Not even the police people who dumped them there.
Yes. That doesn't come to the knowledge of the public. That the cells were more than prisons. Is that right? Very horrible. What we saw, and we discussed together before I wrote the report. That's the first time I did some work for her. But another thing happened, since then, anytime she needs any information from the district court
By that
where
time
I
she
was.
was already at the
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
And I was at the district court. Okay. Anytime she needs information, she'll call me and I'll give it to her from the district court. There I realized that the lady is always willing to what? Learn, even though she was a superior court judge. Is that not right? Mm-hmm. She was always able to learn. That's one thing I learned about her, and she wanted information and I was giving it to her. And I appreciate it because normally the information should have come from the Supreme Court registry or something before it reaches the line, but she would make it direct. Mm-hmm. So she's somebody who is always prepared to learn. Yeah.
How is that quality of going to the ground and getting first-hand information,
yes.
How relevant would that be in her current role as Chief Justice if Parliament approves her?
Oh, that is obvious. Is that right? You break the bureaucracy. Is that right? Then you get the information that you need. Then you use that information. If you have that person, I think it's a very good quality. Is that right? It's a very good quality that management can always seek information from the appropriate source without going through bureaucracy, maybe writing letters and all those things.
We have to take a break at this point. You're watching PM Express. My guest is Justice Kojo Owusu, a retired High Court judge, a lecturer at Mount Crest University, giving us insights about Ghana's next Chief Justice, Justice Sophia Akuffo. When we come back from the break, we will continue with this discussion. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and we are talking to Justice Kojo Owusu, retired Supreme Court judge, giving us retired High Court judge,
yes.
Giving us insights into the new Chief Justice, yet to be confirmed though by Parliament, but it's almost certain that she will get the confirmation. We are getting to know her and what she stands for. Justice Owusu, you gave us a certain background about Justice Akuffo's willingness to go to the source, go to the ground, cut the bureaucracy, and get information which is relevant.
Yes.
We know that her nomination was not without controversy, for example. Were you surprised when you heard her name?
As what?
As
Supreme Court?
As the next Chief Justice.
No, I wasn't surprised at all.
Why? Because the media had been touting two names, Justice Eni Yeboah, Justice Jones Doche.
I'll give you my reasons. Now, she's the head of the administration. Is that right? The chief judge is the head of administration. Yeah. Now, here is a woman who was head of legal department at Mobil Oil, a multinational, before joining the bench. You know, in a multinational, before you become a chief manager, if you're not competent, you get out. The system will even get you out. So when you come to administration, she has the strong administrative background, which she acquired in a multinational institution like Mobil, which is on record.
So you think she had proven herself, even in private business?
As the head of legal department, is that not right? Of Mobil or Ghana, a multinational. Is that right? And another thing too, when she was at the present that she's in the judiciary, she has been sitting as chairperson for several committees which have been appointed by the Judicial Council, which I gave you the structure. Like the Appointments Committee, Disciplinary Committee, Finance and Budget Committee. She has been sitting on all those things. Is that right? So when it comes to running such a place, she's familiar with all these processes. Is that right? By which the Judicial Council makes its decisions. I know, for example, when I was at the Judicial Council, she was also there. Is that right? Representing the Supreme Court judges. Is that right? And there's so many committees which she sat on. These are confidential. Is that right? Which produced their reports, which she submitted them. Is that right? So when you come to the committee aspect of running a place, as I said, the Judicial Council assists the Chief Justice in taking certain decisions. Is that right? She's passed through that mail. Is that right? She's passed through that mail.
We know that when she was first appointed to the Supreme Court by President Rawlings in 1995, that appointment itself was dogged by some controversy because there were those who argued she was too young. She was 45, we are told, at the time. And they were also saying that she hasn't been exposed to so much private practice. Is that right? Now, in most jurisdictions, is that right, like the US, the president can appoint somebody from the academia, even straight to the Supreme Court. So at the time she was appointed, she was head of the legal department of what? Mobile, which is, I think, above the High Court in terms of standing. Standing, yes. So she was not mediocre in the sense that she was not moving from court to court, practicing or doing cases. That is not what it entails when it comes to the appointment of judges. You remember President Akuffo appointed Dr. Sechum, Professor Kluje, and Professor Modibo Kran direct from the academia to the bench. Am I not correct? Yes. Yes. So you don't need to be going through the system as a magistrate, circuit, high court before you reach the Supreme Court. The president has a prerogative, is that right, to appoint somebody straight either from the academia or from the bar to the Supreme Court. And that's what President Orange did. We saw that with the appointment of Justice Gabriel Puamang. Yes. He was appointed by former President John Mahama to the Supreme Court from private practice. Thank you very much. He's my mate. Okay. And friend. He was appointed direct. He has made 25 years or 28 years. So he can be appointed from the bar straight to the Supreme Court. You don't need to go through the hierarchy, all right, as a district magistrate, circuit court like we went through before you reach the Supreme Court. The president has that prerogative. You can appoint somebody from either the bar or from the academia straight to the Supreme Court. So her appointment by President Juarez, there was nothing wrong with it. When we look at the judiciary, yes, you told us earlier that she will be the head of the judiciary. Yes. Can she manipulate court judgments in favor of the government? You have asked a very good question. The Chief Justice doesn't tell judges how they should write their judgments and what decisions they should give. Judges decide by the evidence before them and what? The facts. And they came out of judgment. The Chief Justice never tells anybody what he or he should do, even at the district court. In fact, it would be an offense, is that right, for the Chief Justice to tell somebody to do this or that, according to the rules of the due process of what? Law and other things, which you know. Is that right? To be an offense, is that right? For example, at Mancrest, for the dean to tell me to what? Fail somebody. Don't you think it's an offense? Yeah. So the Chief Justice don't do that. Is that right? If people can petition the Chief Justice, is that right, about maybe your conduct as a judge or as a registrar, that's a mere petition. But the Chief Justice doesn't interfere with the work of any judge. There are those who argue that that may be the case, but the Chief Justice is the one who empanels the court. And if a matter were to come before the Chief Justice that involves the government, the Chief Justice may empaneling the court, choose the judges in a manner as to procure a particular judgment. That is not correct. Now, there's a computerized procedure which tells you which court a matter will go and which tells you which judge will handle that case. Is that right? And that thing has been made in the form of a ballot. Is that right? So it will be balloted, then it will choose those judges. Even at the Supreme Court? Yes. The Chief Justice doesn't determine which judge sits. It will be balloted. The names will be balloted. Is that right? Then somebody will pick them. Then the judges that will come are not based on the decision of what? Of the Chief Justice. The system has been changed. What reform do you expect her to bring about in the judiciary, in the justice system? Okay. Now, that one, I'll go back to my listing.
Is that right? She's a member of the governing committee of the Commonwealth Judicial Education Institute. She did her studies in Canada at Dalhousie University. I know the place, where she studied about judicial education. Now we have a Judicial Educational Institute now in the judiciary. So I think that her appointment should strengthen the institute. Is that right?
How?
By her knowledge from Dalhousie University, where she did a diploma in judicial education. Is that right? Judicial education is a specialized area. Is that right? Just like any other thing. Now, judicial education is important because the law is changing all the time. At first, before 1992, there was nothing like environmental law. Is that right? So judges who are freshly appointed, who were educated before 1992, they need to be exposed about environmental law, for example. And it's the institute that takes them through the process so that they also know. So those areas of the law which have changed or which are not known or which are new, the judicial education is handled. And she has a strong background in judicial education with a diploma from University of Dalhousie in Canada.
And talking about education,
yes,
one of the controversial issues relating to education is legal education.
No, judicial education. Oh, legal education, okay.
Yes, legal education. I'm talking about access to legal education.
Thank you very much.
Currently, there's a case pending before the Supreme Court,
yes,
brought by Professor Stephen Kwekwa-Asare,
okay,
who contends that the current structure where the General Legal Counsel, which is responsible for organizing or supervising legal education, is acting in contravention of the Constitution by creating a Ghana School of Law, which administers entrance exams and interviews and admits students, and every year, many don't get to go to school. Can we expect a Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo who will lead who will lead a certain revolution to open up access to legal education, so that when you teach your students from Mount Crest University and they pass and they obtain an LLB, access to the bar would not be yes.
Yes. Some of the reasons given why they were conducting the entrance examination was that they don't have adequate infrastructure in place for the numbers that were coming. Another reason too, because if you go to the law school, it's a very small place. If you take 1,000 students, all the infrastructure they will break down, toilets, washrooms, and everything.
So why can't the whole nation build classrooms to admit people who want to study law?
That is, and even getting lecturers at the law school too is another problem. You know it.
Why?
You have to pay for it.
But that's the point. That's the reason why you must admit more lawyers and train them.
Yeah, you must pay for it. So the reason they have given is maybe a handicap.
Are you persuaded by those reasons?
No, I'm not persuaded by those reasons. Otherwise, the legal profession will become exclusive. Right, to become exclusive. It should be open to everybody. If you go to the US, there are engineers, doctors who are lawyers also at the same time. Is that right? You have administrators who must be lawyers, like human resource managers who must be lawyers, and most police officers and prosecutors must also be lawyers. So the door should not be shut out of these people.
Can we expect a Justice Sophia Akuffo to lead the process to open up this
shutdown,
yes,
of this thing? Well, that is a matter which should be taken up with the judiciary when she is.
Because there's actually a case pending before the Supreme
Court, yes.
And just Professor Stephen Kwekwa-Asare's case is anybody who has LLB should be allowed to write an exam that will lead to their admission to the bar.
Yes. And even now, most of the LLB program, all the subjects are done at the faculty level. So the bar is only procedural. So I think a lot of people should be allowed to enter without going through an entrance examination. Because things you learned in your first year, second year, third year, by the time you go and write the exam, you have forgotten them. Is that not possible? So I think they must open up for people to enter the law school by increasing the infrastructure and the resources. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. So let's talk about Justice Sophia Akuffo.
Yes.
Still. So now we know Parliament may approve her,
yes.
and if Parliament approves her, she takes office,
yes.
and she has about 3 years to go.
Yeah, okay.
What do you want to see in those 3 years? What do you hope to see in those 3 years?
Yeah, as I've said, she has the Negri Treaty of Competence. Now, she was the ADR task force in the judiciary. Now, the ADR system, now we all know that litigation, which is a common law inheritance from the
English
from the common law, right? It's not performing because of costs, delays, and so many factors. But there are systemic reasons why people should opt out for alternative dispute resolution. And she was the ADR task force. In fact, the present Chief Justice was also in charge of the ADR task force. They were all together. And she's somebody who believes in this concept. And I think if she's there, she'll make sure that most cases go to ADR. You have some land cases which are pending in court for 25 years. The litigants, some of them die, and it takes sometimes about 1 year before they are what? Substituted. The system is so rigid that I think, just like the way equity changed the common law, right? ADR system should adopt to change some aspects of litigation. And she is an advocate of what? Alternative to like the present Chief Justice here. They are advocates of ADR. And I think that is very, very important. So her appointment will bring in more ADR or consent judgment that will free the legal system from protracted litigation.
Have we done enough in this area? Because the present Chief Justice is the longest serving Chief Justice, 10 years.
Yes.
Short a few days.
Yes.
No Chief Justice has served that long. Did she do enough in ADR?
Yes. She even established the ADR week. Now, every year, the Judicial Service celebrates what we call ADR week. The ADR week has become part of the judicial calendar, where litigants can use the ADR process. The ADR process means either arbitration, mediation.
How does that work?
Or the ADR system.
Give us some education about ADR. When we say ADR, alternative dispute resolution,
yeah.
What does that mean?
When you file a case in court at the registry, right, your defendant will file it there. Now, where the case involves families or involves a relationship which must be maintained, sometimes even business relationship, right? The reasoning is that if you use the former litigation process, you destroy that relationship. So the ADR system looks at it from that point of view and informs the parties to resolve the matter out or outside the normal litigation process. Is that right? We have ADR, and during that time, we had lawyers who were even doing it free, how do you call it? Pro bono, is that right? For some of the litigants. Some of the issues involve inheritance, which could be resolved amicably. Then the court will adopt the decision of the what? Litigants. Okay, share this, share it that way, share it that way, is that right? So the ADR system, I think, should now take about 70 or 50% of court cases as a process of resolving what? Disputes. And the present Chief Justice, and I know about Justice Sophia Akuffo, they have worked tirelessly on this concept. They are the first. So it's not, the ADR system is not part of the Ghana legal system. And there's an ADR week where it's celebrated throughout the country.
Let's talk about criminal
justice.
cases. In criminal justice, is ADR permissible?
No. Some provisions of the Courts Act provide that where the matter involves a misdemeanor, is that right? Then the court can, in furtherance of reconciliation, use the ADR process to resolve it. Criminal jurisdiction, if it's a misdemeanor. But if it's a felony, then you can't do that.
Is that why we have this problem of remand prisoners, where you have thousands and thousands of people who are languishing in jail? We introduce a justice for all people.
Yes.
From where you said, is it achieving the objectives for which it was set up?
For the criminal justice system, the backlog increases at a very meteoric rate. That is the problem with the criminal justice system. Is that right? If you are a magistrate at a place like Ajabin Court, if you don't take care, you will leave there at 5 p.m. every day. Because the cases that come there, criminal cases, is very, very voluminous. There are some other jurisdictions where cases are not voluminous. So those backlog, it's seen in certain densely populated areas like Accra, is that right? Maybe Kumasi and the rest. But outside these jurisdictions, you don't have that situation.
We have to take a break at this point. You're watching PM Express, and we are talking criminal justice, the justice system generally, the Chief Justice who will be approved, or most likely will be approved by Parliament, Justice Sophia Akuffo. Our guest is Justice Kojo Owusu. Keep watching. You're welcome back. You're watching PM Express, and our guest is Justice Kojo Owusu, retired High Court judge, talking about Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo. Justice.
I don't, yeah.
Chief Justice Sophia Akuffo,
yes.
to be. One of the controversies surrounding her appointment was that she worked with the president, and that there is a potential conflict of interest. Do you share that view, that because she worked with the president, she may be conflicted when matters appear before the judiciary?
That is not correct. It's not true. It's just like a doctor finishing medical school and going to work in a relative's clinic. Can the doctor handle patients in a way different from the normal treatment because she worked in the uncle's chambers? Or if you are even an engineer and you work in your father's consultancy and you later leave, are we saying that your decisions may conflict with the interests of your personal duties against the interests of the general public? Professionals, when they finish, they go on attachment. Doctors do the same. Accountants, even some people work in accounting firms before they qualify. Is that right? Okay. That's how the system is. You have to go to a place and put your knowledge, which you learn in the classroom, into practice. And that's what she did. And every lawyer has done the same thing before. That doesn't mean that administratively or thinking as a judicial officer should decide in favor of the president.
In an earlier interview I did with the former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Justice Emil Short.
No, Commissioner Short.
Okay. In that interview, he said that Justice Sophia Akuffo was a dark horse because that was before her nomination. He nonetheless believed that Justice Jules Duche was going to be appointed, and his one of the things he pointed out was that Justice Duche was pleasant. He was a pleasant person. Does Justice Sophia Akuffo come across to you as same? If not, will that derogate from her role as Chief Justice?
Justice Sophia Akuffo has a strong academic and professional background. You know, she's a Harvard graduate.
Yes.
Who's an LLM from Harvard University. And she worked at Mobile as the head of legal department before she joined the bench. I don't think with her training and background and her father's position as a former senior minister of presidency, she will misconduct herself, or she will let her personal interest or somebody's interest override her duty towards the Ghanaian state. I don't think she will ever do that. She has a strong academic background, strong family background, strong social background.
Does she have a likable personality?
Sure, yes. She has. She's always smiling and all those things. All right. She's always smiling. But talking about conflict of duty and interest, that one, I don't think she will do that. All right. For her own self and for the interests of her family members and all that, I don't think she will misconduct herself by becoming a politician. She's not a politician. She's a judge.
Do judges do politics?
Like chiefs are not supposed to do politics. Is that right? Judges too don't do politics. If they do politics, openly or privately, privately, it can lead you into trouble.
Yeah, but do they?
I don't think so.
Do judges have political leanings?
No. Judges don't have political leanings.
Do they vote?
They vote, but voting is a legal right which you must exercise.
Are we not playing the ostrich when we say that judges don't have political leaning? Because elsewhere, like the United States, for example, we know which judge has what leanings, and when a case comes before them, how they will rule. So it's a reason the appointment of a judge, especially at the Supreme Court, is a big national discussion.
Issue. Yes. If a judge in the U.S., for example, is a Catholic, is that right? He will not vote in favor of, he will not give any decision vote in favor of
abortion, for example.
Yes. So you have certain principles which goes into judicial reasoning, is that right? There are certain principles, and if a judge is a Catholic or a Presbyterian or other things, sometimes those thinking may go into certain decisions. But those ones are personal. Is that right?
Our judges, are their decisions informed by how their own characters have been formed, i.e. in terms of their religious or ethnic or cultural backgrounds?
Yes. Well, some people in jurisprudence, is that right, believe that what judges do are affected by their social backgrounds, right, or religious background. Some people believe that. But judges are bound by sometimes statute, is that right, to decide in a certain way. Judges have few discretion where you are saying his ethical background, ethnic background, or social background can influence him. Most decisions which are taken by judges under the common law system, is that right, are controlled by judicial what? Precedent, where the decisions are binding on the judge. So at that point, whether he likes it or not, his background cannot determine the decision. There are certain statutes to which lays down how a judge should what? Decide certain cases. Is that right? Like when you come to maybe the Sale of Goods Act, talking about damages, the act lays down the formula for determining what? Damages, the market price minus what? The actual price at the moment, and so forth and so forth. So sometimes the doctrine of judicial precedent holds down what judges can do and what they cannot do.
Are judgments of judges
Yes.
accentuated by political considerations?
That's what I'm saying, that sometimes judges have to act or decide on what the law ought to be, but not what the law is. In certain cases, where the judgment will lead to social chaos, war, and this thing, so that the judge have to decide what the law ought to be, but not what the law is. So, in certain situations, it may look as if he has taken the decision based on political interest or political affiliation. If taking that decision in favor of a certain political persuasion, it will lead to stability, it will lead to peace, the judge may apply that one. Is that right? So, theorists say that sometimes the judge should decide what the law ought to be in order to save situations.
Is that not the issue then? That if judges can decide what the law ought to be...
Sometimes. Is that right? But where a statute is clear, or where a precedent is clear and the facts are the same, that's why to be binding on the judge. He can't veer away from the precedent or from the provisions of that statute.
Can they interpret the law to... They take a decision and then find the law to justify it? Is that not what judges do?
All what judges do is to take evidence and apply the law against the evidence. That's what judges do. They take the facts. When you go to court, you normally file your pleadings in court. That's the facts before the judge. Then you go into the witness box, plus your witnesses, then you give evidence. Then your opponent also does the same. Then looking at the evidence, the judge will apply the law. So if it's about the law on capacity, is that right? Of a Busuampeni, for example, is that right? He will apply decided cases on who is the head of family and other things, looking at the evidence before him, the mixed one.
Have you read Justice Sophia Akuffo's judgments?
No. I didn't read those judgments, yeah.
Okay.
Because at the regional tribunal, I was doing a lot of only civil criminal cases. I haven't read her judgments. Okay. But I know that she's the vice president of the African Court on Human and People's Rights, as we speak now. She's the vice, she has an international posture, which is unique for her profile. She's a member, the court is located in Tanzania, Arusha. Yeah. She's the vice president, and she has been sitting on this court for 4 years.
How is, given that this court...
Internationally...
Yes, this court is about human and people's rights.
Right, okay.
How is this, how does that rule and the experiences that she may have gathered in this area influence decisions as far as rights in Ghana are concerned?
It's very, very important. Now, even in the LLB curriculum, we have human rights as a whole subject, which you do. Formerly, human rights was put in constitutional law, but now they have made it a whole topic. Is that right? So that those who deals with vulnerable people, suspects, and other things, like the police do, they will exercise human rights, like the right to bail, for example. Is that right? It has now become an issue of human rights. Even if the offense is not bailable, and the man has been in prison cells for a long time, the courts have been granting bail. So her exposure at the Arusha Court on Human Rights and People's Justice is a credit to her. If she moves to the
she will come before Parliament. What question do you want to hear her answer about her appointment?
I know one of them, like you were talking about, because he served in Nana Akufo-Addo's chambers, maybe they may talk about nepotism. Is that right? But judges don't decide because you are my father or you're my brother or my uncle. As I started from the beginning, judges work with what? Evidence. And at the Supreme Court, you know it already. It's a collective decision. Then the majority decision will win. Is that right? That's what we call the orbital dictum. That's the minority and what? The ratio decidendi of a case. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So it's not possible that she'll be there and do other people's hatchet job for them. You know hatchet job? Yeah. Yeah. Do other people's what? Litigation or this thing for them. Mm.
Will she not be, because the president, when he was announcing her nomination,
yes,
spoke about her discipline,
yes,
and her dedication,
yes,
and her diligence.
Yes.
Will that not make her a difficult person to work with, because she will hold everybody to such higher standards that they can't meet?
Oh, if you can't meet standards, then that is your own problem. Is that right? Her discipline has helped her. Is that right? Her the other quality, which you said.
Yes.
These are very, very important qualities of a successful judge or a successful president. Is that right? We have never heard anything about, how do you call it? About her.
There's never been any scandal involved.
Scandal. I was using the word scandal. Yeah. There's never been any scandal throughout her working life. Is that right?
But that's the problem. If she's so squeaky clean, then she's coming to head an institution which only a few years ago was rocked with this judicial bribery scandal,
yes,
as exposed by a journalist.
Yes.
We know that still has not been dealt with fully because some of the judges are in court.
Yes.
Justice Derry, Justice Isiado, and
yes,
Justice Habib Logo,
yes,
are in court. The current Chief Justice has been highly praised for her work in when that story broke. What do you expect Justice Sophia Akuffo to do in respect of this case?
She'll follow the same process of transparency. She'll follow the same process of transparency and ensure that people get fairness or hearing. Is that right? She'll follow the same transparency. She cannot veer away from that precedent, which has been set by the present Chief Justice. Is that right? The present Chief Justice could not have suppressed what announced it. Otherwise, it would be to her at a disadvantage, or to have been some people call what? Administrative suicide for her. Oh, what she did? She did it transparently. The whole world saw it, and she's going peacefully. And I think Justice Akuffo will also eschew transparency in her administration.
Thank you, Justice. It's been an honor talking to you. Our guest has been Justice Owusu. He's a retired High Court judge, lecturer at Mount Crest University. God willing, we will bring you another exciting discussion on PM Express. Until then, my name is Malik Abbas Dabu. Bye-bye.